Hi everyone, Zach here, and welcome to lesson 19 in this series on developing a survival game. In this video, we'll continue on from what we did in the last video, and that we'll be creating a split stack menu, and we'll use the same approach as we did for our discard item menu. We'll also create a pop-up that will display item details. This series has been brought to you by my Patreon sponsors, and that said, open up your project and let's make a start. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the editor. In today's video, we're going to set up two menus for the price of one. Okay, that's actually semi-true, but we are setting up two menus. What we're going to do is we're going to go into, the menus we're setting up are our split item menu and our item info, which actually isn't a menu, it's just a pop-up. What we're going to do this is we are going to go to our core widgets, and we're going to do our split menu first because that's going to be the easiest. Widget, inventory, we have our discard item, right click it, duplicate it. This will be our WBP split stack. Go ahead and pop that open. And in here, all we're going to do is we're going to change some of the wording and some of the names around. So it's fairly simple. So this number 2 discard will be number 2 new stack. This discard text will be split instead. And now, very important, this is no longer our discard size menu. It is our split menu size. And we'll do the same for everything else that says discard on here. Just change that over to split. I'm going to pause the video and come back once I've changed all the names. All right, there we go. We have everything set to say split now. Let's go over to our graph. And on our graph, well, let's make sure the buttons have been changed. So it's split. Our repeats are all the same, so we have everything else set up the same here. We are still running to get item info. We're still checking. Ooh, that actually should be a capital T on this. Let's just find that in our item details and rename it. I hit the wrong button to get rid of that 2. I was hitting F2. Instead, I hit F1. And because I know that error is going to exist in our discard menu, we'll do the same there real quick. It's in item details. I put the 2 in just because if I try, sometimes it won't reset it, especially if I haven't compiled and saved. It's just an easy way of not having to compile and save while doing this. All right. We're still setting our max amount, except for this won't be our max discard. It'll be our max split. And to be fair, actually, with our split, the max should be under the total. It should be -1, really, but otherwise, we're just swapping stacks. But we're not going to really worry about that too much. Just changing everything that says discard to split so I have a clearer idea of what's happening. And the major difference here is this. We aren't discarding items anymore. So what we're going to do is we are going to go back to our core interfaces. And in our interfaces, we are going to open our inventory. We're going to create a new function called run split stack. And that's going to have the same returns as the actual split stack function. So it's going to have 2 inputs, 1 return. Our inputs are both type integer of our old friends index ref and of split amount. So the amount friend we have, just we use a different name for it based on what we're doing. And our return was B split successful. Compile, save. Just going to control S save everything real quick. Control shift, go back to our actors, our inventory, open up our inventory, and in here under interfaces, ooh, I did not put that in a category. We're going to put this into our utility related, compile, save, compile in our BP inventory, go to utility related, run split stack, give ourselves some space, find our utility functions, find our split stack, plug that into there, index ref, split amount was successful. Compile, save, Back to our split stack menu here, we're going to pull off this item act or inventory actor, and we're going to do run split stack. And then we can just delete that, line that up there, plug our index ref into index ref, our amount into split amount, and connect the execute, the boolean, and the execute. And we're done. So that's why we're doing 2 menus, by the way, because, hey, we're 4 minutes into this, and that'll be the shortest tutorial I've ever released. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new widget that will pop up based on hovering over or mousing over an item. So let's go to our widget elements inventory and create a new user interface called WBP item details. Let's pop it open. And as usual, we're going to use our desired, and we are going to create a new size box after we get rid of the canvas panel. I always skip that step for some reason. So size box, drop it into there. Let's name this our details size box. This size box will have a width and height override as usual. It will be 500 this time though, unlike our split and discard, and 400. We will then do a inner and outer border as usual. So inner alpha of 0.5, so we get that muddy sort of grayish white. It's only grayish because of the background we're looking at, by the way. It's a muddy white, and this will be our details outer border. Let's then do an inner border, and this will be our details inner border. The inner border will have that same gray tone that we use constantly. By the way, a faster way to probably do this is actually to set the gray tone and drag and drop it up here. So let me show you how to do that real quick. Let's just set this up, 0.073, 0.073, 0.073. And we have this gray now. What I could do is click here, take this gray, and just drop it into there. And there we go. I can always call this up. And you can create multiple categories. So just going to rename this theme as our menus. So I can switch themes and have, say, sky, menus, what have you. Useful in the future, I guess. All right, next we're going to do our usual of getting a canvas panel and dropping it into our details inner border. And this will be our details, our item details canvas. And in here, we're going to have an item name. So we're going to grab our WBP custom text if you're using the custom text. We are going to center it at the top. We'll do a 0 on X and Y positioning. For size, it'll be 300 by 100. And we want this centered on the X, so it's 0.5. And we want this probably a little bit lower down, to be fair. So I'm going to do negative 0.1. There we go. As for the text itself, we are going to center the text. We will turn on auto wrapping. And this text, just as dummy text, will be large food crate X99. There we go. So it's centered, and we have all this lovely little text. We're going to mark this as is variable, and this will be our details item name. What we're going to do is a size panel first. So grab a size box. We are going to center our size box, dead center. Set everything to 0 by 0 for 50 by 250. Again, we're going to put that in a center alignment, and we're going to just move this up to 0.0 or 0.30, and we're going to leave it just about there, so we have a bit of space between the two. And this will be my description size box. And in here, I'm going to put my custom text, and I'm just going to fill this custom. I'm going to first, before I fill the custom text, name it and make it variable. And oh no, not that. Sorry. Select the text and make it variable. And this will be our item description. I don't use that name anywhere else, so I'm not going to worry about it. The text size will be 16. We will want auto wrapping on. And let's just fill in some just dummy text. I'm going to just literally use an opening line of lorem ipsum, put a space in, copy it, and then I'm just going to paste that in a few times. All right, the auto wrap did not stay on. I swear I clicked it. There we go. So we can see that it's auto wrapping. Compile, and it will auto save if you followed my save setup. In here, what we're going to do is, again, delete all of this. We're going to create a custom. Really quickly, let's go back to our split stack. This should not be update discard. Sorry, I just realized because we use this over and over again that I put the wrong name in here. So I'm going to rename this as update split. Compile it. Now let's go back to our item details. In item details, custom event, update, description. Okay, let me make sure I'm spelling description right. Description. Sorry. All right, we are going to have 2 inputs on this one, and one will be our one of our semi-old friends, amount. We don't need an index in this case, and it will be of type integer. The other one will be item details, which will be of our f item details. Let's put these 2 bits into components. And what we're going to do now is we're going to set our item amount to a variable called amount, which we'll put into a category called details. And we're going to do the same for our item details, promote to a variable. This will be item details. Sorry, I want to make sure that I'm actually using Pascal casing. This will go into details. Plug that into there, plug that into there, line those up, line that up. And we're going to take our item details. We're going to break our item details. We want a few bits of information from this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to, before we go further, we're going to take our item name. We are going to do a set text. And like usual, we'll do a format text. And our format here will be curly bracket, item name, closing curly bracket. And then we will do a no space, curly bracket, amount. Sorry, it took me a minute to remember why I was doing it that way. Now the reason why we're not putting a space in is we're going to check if the item is stackable. If it is stackable, then we will actually put in a bit of text. And the bit of text will have a space, the X, and the amount. So what we're going to do this, don't worry about lining this up because we're going to collapse this to a function in a moment, is grab off the is stackable and do a branch. You could do a select node. Hint, hint, if you want to try something a bit different. And for now, I'm just going to plug directly into there. I'm going to take the branch, the set text. Actually, I'm going to cheat a tiny bit. I'm going to take the amount for just a moment. And I am going to plug into amount there. For item name, I am going to plug into here, into item name. I'm going to take these nodes now and collapse them to a function called set item name. I'm going to break the amount. And I'm going to pop this open, line that up. And this is where I break that for a moment again. Move this to the side, grab both these nodes. And in here, what we're going to do is fill in the text. So amount, we're actually going to break that. We are going to create a... Actually, we don't need amount on the outside. We have it as a variable. We can just copy the node in here. So get rid of the amount. We're going to create a local variable called amount text local. And this, of course, will be of type text. If the item is not stackable, make sure nothing is in here, by the way. If the amount is not stackable, we're going to just blank it out. It's null. It has no meaning. Sorry, I was just going to reline that. If it is stackable, we're going to copy that node up here, put a reroute in, or connect it, and then put a reroute in. Yes, put a reroute in off of nothing. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? For this, we're going to do another format text. and this will be space X curly bracket amount closing curly bracket. Grab your amount, plug that into there. There we go. And now what we're going to do is we are going to just move these nodes over here off the false. So I'm going to plug directly into there. And then I'm going to put a lovely little reroute in. Plug that into there. Plug into there, please. Thank you. Put another reroute in. Line that up. And for our amount text now, or for our amount on that final format text node, what I am going to do is I am going to get my amount text local and plug that into there. I'm going to compile and save this. And back in my event graph, we're not done here yet, I am going to set our description, which is much easier. We get item description, and we do set text text. Grab that, plug it in. And from here, we have an item description, and that just goes straight into there. Take this node, hide unconnected pins, move that down here if you want to organize it a bit better, and there we go. I'm actually going to uncross these pins by doing that. And I'm going to pop this open, and it's a little bit less crossed here as well. And we have now got our item description set up. What we're going to do really quickly, because we're at 16 minutes, and I've been doing 30-minute tutorials recently, it seems, is we're going to go back to our widget elements inventory, open up our inventory slot. What we're going to do is we're going to set it so that pop-up actually shows up. And the way we're going to do that in this graph is go over to our primary event graph. You can get rid of these two things, by the way. In our event graph, what we're going to do is we are going to find our component, find the slot button. We're going to do on hovered, find the button again, and on unhovered. All right, so we are going to create a new variable, not an event dispatcher, sorry about that, a new variable called B is hovered. This will be a private, so we're abstracting this data variable. It will be in bool. On the hovered, we are going to set this to true. We are then going to do a delay. We are going to do a delay of half a second, so 0.5. And then what we are going to do is we are going to pause this part for a moment. Actually, I'm just going to move it down. I'm going to go to my slot is active, so set slot here. And I'm going to create another Boolean variable, which will also be private, called B details available. Going to make this again private. I'm going to compile on both of these to make sure they're not auto set to true. This will be bool. We will put this in the slot available and mark it true. In our disable slot, well, we'll mark this as false, even though it defaults out to false anyway. But just to be on the safe side, we are going to set it to false there. All right, next what we're going to do is after our delay, we're going to have a branch. And we're going to check a few things, like 4 things really. So we're going to start with an and. And what we want to check is the slot active first. Is there something in there to get the information about? That's 1. Are the details available? I.e., is the slot active? This is just a double check. And actually, the reason why we have these 2 is we will use details available with regards to when we click the item. So when we click the item, we click the button, the menus are going to pop up. We want the slot to be active during that. Otherwise, we can't click it. We don't want the menu or the details to pop up if the menu's been opened. So that's why we have 2 different nodes kind of doing the same thing. One of them is just a general, is it active? One of it is, are the details actually available because I haven't clicked anything yet. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to check if the inventory panel is active. If you remember earlier on in the last video, or at the end of the last video, I said, well, we're not done. This is item description, one split stack. We're not done down here. There is an event here where we're going to disable the inventory panel so we can't accidentally click multiple menus and not be aware of where we're actually at. So we can still get that information even if we haven't set it yet, because it's a default setting. So what we're going to do is we are going to get our a reference to the owning inventory actor for this. So our owning widget, that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a widget reference called inventory widget ref. This will be of WBP inventory UI. We want this exposed on spawn and something that we can edit per instance. We are going to put this in a category of references. We're going to compile and save real quick. And we're going to grab this inventory reference. We are going to get the inventory panel. And we're going to, from the inventory panel, again, this is kind of bad encapsulation practice here, but because we're treating these as friends of class, we're okay. Is enabled. We want the get is enabled. So that is a default variable in there. We're going to plug that in. And the other thing we want is finally, are we actually hovering? Because again, we're going to set that to false in certain situations. So it's 4 checks. I get that's a lot of checks to put in, and these are not pretty. So I'm going to be lazy about this so I don't have to stare at this and collapse this to a function of can get item description. It will be a pure function, and the return value will be b can get item description. That way it's a little bit less messy to look at, and we're doing a little bit more abstraction. Really? All right. Compile, save. I don't need to save with the way I have to set up. Gonna just move that back this way. We have the setup for what we need to do in the next few videos. But unfortunately, since there's a lot of little checks we have to do, or a lot of little setups we have to do in the inventory UI, we're going to actually pause here with getting this fully functional. What we are going to do, however, is do the unhovered setup as well. And we're going to mark that as false. We're going to put a branch in, and we're going to do the set slot as active as our check. So if the slot is active, what we are going to do is take our inventory. Oh, no, again, that's something we'll have to do in the next video. So unfortunately, because of all the setup we have to do in the next video, or all the setup we have to do, we're saving that for the next video. That said, however, while we have set up these menus, while we are able to have a details menu, while we are able to have a split stack menu, well, we're nearly done. We have 2 more videos to go before we are fully set up with our inventory system. All we have to do is implement what happens when we click buttons there. And because that's going to drive me crazy, the fact that I haven't turned that debugging off, I am going to turn that debugging off before I forget. There we go. Now when I click on the screen, if I accidentally miss something useful, it will not try to kill my character. So we'll be able to, how we can highlight here and click it. We'll be able to have a menu pop up. So we're going to set up the menu in the next video. And in the video after, we'll set up how that menu and how all our other menus work inside of our parent widget. That said, this video has been brought to you by Patreon sponsors like Haynes, Quadmenson, and Rian. If you've liked this video, please make sure to hit the like button down below. We're nearly done with our inventory system and this section. We just have a couple of videos left. And if you want to be here when we work on those videos and finish our inventory, make sure to hit the subscribe and notify bell. We also technically still have our encumbrance system to work with, I just realized, but we'll take care of that in the equipment section. I don't know why I'm bringing that up. But if you want to be here when we finish up the inventory system itself, subscribe and notify bell. If you want a copy of this project, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Patreon supporters at upper tiers get instant access to any ongoing YouTube project. Supporters at other tiers will get access once a project is completed on YouTube. And if you just want to support the channel, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Also consider joining our Discord community, links for which are down in the description below the asset pack for this project. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.